Hey, how are you? Come on in. Let's talk. Let's talk. Um, well, before we get there, work unk. How are you?
I'm good, work mom. Living the life and trying to enjoy the little moments that I can, before the
Yeah.
summer's over and get it full on winter.
How was your weekend?
Can't complain. Spent it with some friends and some family. Got to, relax and step away from work. So it was actually a very good weekend. How was yours?
Good, good. I did something similar. I actually had dinner with some friends, and interestingly enough, I mean, we went to an amazing place, and conversation was great. But there was a moment during the dinner where I got stumped, and I kind of weirded myself out a little bit, to be honest, because we were talking about what line of work that I was in, and they asked me something really specific about the type of consulting that I did. And it was a question that I feel like I should have known, but I just really didn't know. And I didn't know how to answer. And it weirded me out for a little bit because I was just like, oh, like for somebody who's been doing this work for a long time, I felt like I wasn't good enough. Like I had a little bit of an imposter syndrome. And then I really had to do a little bit of a timeout with myself and just be like, you know what? You're not supposed to know all the answers. It's okay to not know, like, so that was kind of a weird moment, but otherwise it was a really amazing like dinner. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way. Like, I'm sure you feel that way sometimes. I don't know.
When I feel like that, I think about it for a second. I go, it's okay. I've built up many years worth of self confidence on top of this. So I
Yeah.
just, I just remind myself, you are good enough. You've made it this far, and it's okay. And if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. It's just a mistake.
Yeah. No, I think that's really something that I have to remind myself. And, so actually, you know what, now that we're here, let's talk about it for a little bit, right? I mean, the reminder I think is you don't have to have all the answers. Like, it doesn't matter where you are in your
Right?
career, it doesn't matter where you are in adulting. Like, believe it or not, you don't know everything, and that's okay, right? So, I don't know. I mean, I think that sometimes we get to this point where, like, oh, people say that, you are an expert in this field or you graduated and you have this kind of degree or whatever. But, if you had all the answers, then maybe you wouldn't be on this channel. Maybe we wouldn't be talking about things. But my point is that, sometimes you need an opportunity to just kind of step back and feel like you can ask questions without feeling judged, right? Without
Yeah.
feeling like you need to feel self-conscious about that. So,
Yeah, we all need a safe space, someplace where we can ask questions, right? You got to remind yourself, for a 23-year-old, 24-year-old, this is your first real world job. You've never done this before. You've
yeah.
never done that job before, and it's okay. It's perfectly fine to walk in without knowing all the answers. You have to trust that someone during the interview process saw something great within you and thought you have the building blocks to build a really great whatever your career is going to be. And you have to trust that. You have to trust that they saw something good in you and that they've seen it in other people before.
Yeah, I think that is a really good point, right? I mean, I think that in some spaces, and I've seen this with, teams that we've worked together with, a
Hmm.
lot of young talent, a lot of young people that are, in our circles respectively, and also together, right? Because we've worked together in different places. But I think, you know, in different phases of somebody's career journey, and even in their personal like journey, where there are some things that they know, there are some things that they don't know, right? I mean, like after you graduate, there's always a what's next. When you get your first job, what's next? When you want to get promoted, what's next? When you want to move to a different city, what's next? And there's a scary, daunting thing about that, but there's also an adventure in terms of really trying to figure out, you know, really kind of what that journey looks like. And with figuring that out is really asking asking questions and trying to figure out the things that you don't know. That's kind of a little bit of what makes it exciting. So I feel like sometimes we get in our heads a little bit too much about,
Yeah.
being self-conscious about what other people think. But at the end of the day, I think more so than not, and I know I experienced this, like I love it when people ask me questions. I love it when, when I can help somebody that is on our teams or someone that I meet, you know, because sometimes I have some answers just because I've been through it. And sometimes I don't, and we can figure it out together, right? And sometimes you have the answer, So yeah, I think that's part of the journey, right?
Yeah, it's totally part of the journey. And the one thing we have to remind ourselves that is that we have to provide a safe space.
Yeah.
Asking questions is not the end of the world. I'd rather you ask questions than you walk around acting like you know exactly what you
Yeah.
need to do. We need to remind ourselves that this is not like what you've seen on TV or on the big screen or in movies. This is not all pretty and roses. You're going to come in an unfinished product and you're going to learn every single day. And the next day, you're going to come back and you're going to build on what you learned. And you're going to use those things that you learned the previous day. And you're going to go, okay, how can I make this better? And that's part of the process. And you're going to stumble along the way. Mistakes are perfectly okay as long as you learn from them. And you're in a good place to be able to make those mistakes. And it's nothing wrong with asking for help. Find all the smart people that are around you. Ask as many questions as possible, soak it in, be a sponge, and then be able to pass it forward to the next group of generation of people that are coming up behind you, the next hired employee that may be coming in and
Yeah.
is coming fresh out of school or first time job.
Yeah. Or you would be surprised. Kind of the dinosaurs are the folks that are actually, you know, who are supposed to be your managers, who are supposed to be, your mentors and your
Mhm.
coaches. Like, there are plenty of things that you'd be surprised that just by having an open dialogue, they're going to come to you. Cause I do that all the time. I have said this. You've heard me say this. I'm like, I'm never going to be, as tech savvy as some of our young talent. I'm never going to be as smart in some of the platforms and, all the things that are out there. And so as, as I, get along in my career, being able to learn from other people and from those around me, including young talent, is just a constant learning journey for me. Like you and I have had plenty of conversations where, we're picking each other's brains because we both have experience in certain spaces, but learning from you, learning from people that I trust around me also enables me to realize that there are a lot of things that I don't know that if I took the time to listen, I could also learn from the same talent that is actually coming to me for some questions. So it's a process, right? So
100%. That's why you're supposed to surround yourself with the smartest people possible so that you're able to learn from. All right. And, the smartest people possible can come from any age group, and it's okay. Understanding that, someone that just came in the door, just started their first day, they come in with individual processes and individual experiences that we haven't faced yet. And I'm perfectly okay with that. One of the skills that I always, try to teach my younger team members is learn to read the room. See what others are doing and try to find some middle ground to fill your style and your way of being with the new world that now you're interacting with on every day, and try for the foreseeable future. So make sure that you try to fit your style into the way you work. At the end of the day, it's a really important thing because you were hired because you are an individual. You bring this amazing experience and this amazing personality to your new job, and they want that. So with that being said,
yeah.
let's take a couple minutes. I mean, we've downloaded a lot of information and we shared a lot with our new friends. But I want to make sure that we can recap and make sure we know what we're talking, what we were hearing about. One, you may not know all the answers, and it's okay to ask for help. And no one's to feel shame for that, and that's perfectly okay. Learn the valuable skill of reading the room. Listen, watch, and learn. It's super important, and people will appreciate it if you're learning. Okay. This may not be your first real world job, and it's okay not to know the norms on day one. So, with that being said, it's perfectly okay to make a mistake. It's perfectly okay to learn from those mistakes and carry it forward.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I think, if there's one thing, virtually and kind of in person, right? It's like the door's always open, right? So, the door's always open. And I think that if I were to wrap it up, to just kind of sum up things, it's like, hey, you've made it this far, right? You got here and you haven't given up yet. So great job. We love that you're here. Two, just to kind of piggyback on something that you said earlier, it's like, yeah, trust the process, trust your gut. Like and part of that process is asking the questions and learning as much as you can. So, and I would say to that third point, it's like, hey, you know, every little nugget that you learn, you know, look around, keep that with you, ask the questions, and then ask more questions. And until you get to a point where you feel like you've gotten the answer that you need, it's okay to continue to kind of explore that, because again, you're not supposed to have all the answers. So that being said, just know that the door is always open. We love you. And now what's really important is that you go and you live your life, because welcome to adulting, work mom, and
Work
work
on.
up, always here for you. So we'll catch you next time.